Next year's racing schedules for the main endurance championships have been revealed, and this is a complete breakdown of all three calendars for 2026. This breakdown of mine includes the schedules for each 2026 round in the World Endurance Championship, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and finally the Intercontinental GT Challenge. IMSA revealed their schedule first in March during the 12 Hours of Sebring. Then the WEC brought forward theirs during the 24 Hours of Le Mans weekend. And finally, the IGTC just recently dropped their calendar. First off, I'll begin with the IMSA WeatherTech series. And for next season, there will be 11 rounds on the calendar, but there won't be any changes in terms of the tracks that are present as seen in 2025. But a few things have changed, like the dates. Once again, the season kicks off with the Roar Before the 24 from January 16th to the 18th, with the first round once again being the crown jewel of the Rolex 24 at Daytona on January 24th and 25th. Then comes the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring once again, returning to its mid-March slot, followed by the California races, including the 51st edition of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach on April 18th, and the TireRack.com Monterey Sports Car Championship at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca will happen on May 3rd. The WeatherTech series then makes a third stop in Motor City's downtown for the Detroit Sports Car Classic on May 30th, before the series returns to Watkins Glen for the third Michelin Endurance round on June 28th. The Chevrolet GP at CTMP follows as round 7 on July 12th, with Road America hosting a 6-hour race on August 2nd. The all-GT event of the Michelin GT Challenge of VIR returns as round 9 on August 23rd, before IMSA returns to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for a nearly 3-hour race on September 20th, before the season is concluded at the now traditional finale of Motul Petit Le Mans on October 3rd. In just a moment, I'll break down a few key factors about the IMSA calendar, like clashes with other calendars that I'll mention. But first, let's head into the WEC schedule for next season. Just like IMSA schedule, the 2026 World Endurance Championship calendar doesn't feature any changes in terms of tracks, and they keep the exact same 8 events as in 2025. For the third time in a row, the Losail International Circuit returns to host the season opener, which will see the debut of the Genesis Magma Racing LMDH, with the Qatar 1812 kilometer taking place this time at the end of March on the 28th. More on the date in just a moment. Despite rumors of a WEC return to Monza for the first time since 2023, the 6 Hours of Imola remains on the calendar in 2026 after the event's major success, and next year it will be hosted on April 19th. Then comes the penultimate event before Le Mans, the Total Energies 6 Hours of Spa, which will be held on May 9th, with the 94th edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans set to happen on June 13th and 14th in 2026. The WEC then returns to Brazil for the Rolex 6 Hours of Sao Paulo on July 12th, before 2 events in September, the first one being Lone Star Le Mans at the Circuit of the Americas on September 6th, and the 6 Hours of Fuji in Japan on September 27th, before the finale happens about a month later, which is the Bapco Energy's 8 Hours of Bahrain on November 7th. Finally, there's a 5-race calendar for the Intercontinental GT Challenge in 2026. The Maguire's Bathurst 12-hour kicks off the season once again on February 15th, followed by round 2, which is the ADAC Revnol Nürburgring 24-hour, which will happen from May 16th to May 17th. More on the event in just a moment. Unlike in 2025, there will be a break between the two 24-hour races, with the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa happening on June 27th and June 28th. The series then returns to Japan on September 13th for the 1,000 kilometers of Suzuka, with the season once again concluding with the Indianapolis 8-hour on October 10th on the IMS road course. Now, since there are so many races in 2026 across these 3 schedules, there are bound to be a few calendar clashes. In fact, there are a total of 3 calendar clashes, 2 between the WEC and IMSA, and 1 between IMSA and the IGTC. The first clash is in April, as IMSA's Grand Prix of Long Beach collides on the same weekend as the WEC's 6 Hours of Imola, but thank goodness both races take place on different days. And while this wasn't the case this season, these two events did clash in 2024. As was expected, the second clash between the WEC and IMSA races will happen in July, with the WEC Rolex 6 Hours of Sao Paulo and the IMSA Chevrolet Grand Prix at CTMP happening on the same day of July 12th, which has been the case for the last 3 seasons. It's also worth pointing out that the WEC Prologue in Qatar will start a day after the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring in March. However, the biggest and most impactful clash in 2026 is that of the weekend of June 27th and June 28th, as IMSA's Salem 6 Hours of the Glen returns to its end of June time slot, and it does collide with the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa in the IGTC, which will have major implications on both events. One event change revolving conflicting schedules that I'm really grateful for 2026 is that the IMSA race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca will no longer happen on the same week as the 6 Hours of Spa in the WEC. As I briefly pointed out earlier, the Laguna Seca round will now take place on the weekend of May 3rd, unlike before, and this won't impact the WEC event in Belgium or Mother's Day in the USA. Due to the conflicting schedules, this was always a very difficult weekend for teams to manage, with 2 major endurance races happening on the same weekend, but with the Monterey Sports Car Championship being moved up a week, this changes things for the better. On a personal note, this really helps me because I go to the race at Laguna Seca in person and I'm usually distracted with that event and not able to cover the 6 Hours of Spa on the same weekend. So thankfully, things will be different in 2026. Now, besides the conflicting schedule details, there are some other major changes to the calendars for 2026 that I really want to mention. One of them is that Road America's IMSA venue is now classified as a Michelin Endurance Cup round, and it will last 6 hours. This is something that fans have been advocating for many years, as Road America is such an amazing track for IMSA action, and it seems that the organizers agree. This change though does mean that the Battle on the Bricks at Indy does lose its status as a Michelin Endurance Cup round. Another major change that I alluded to earlier is that the 24 Hours of Nürburgring has returned to its May slot, and in fact, it's now placed at an earlier time in the month compared to the past. While this unfortunately does end the 24-hour triple header which we saw in 2025 between Le Mans, Nürburgring, and Spa, this makes things a whole lot easier for drivers, teams, sponsors, and even content creators like me to participate in events. The WEC season opener is also now at the end of March, instead of at the end of February like in 2025. This is the time of the year that the World Endurance Championship has begun with their season opener though, as in 2023 the season opener at Sebring was held during the same weekend as the 12 Hours of Sebring in IMSA, which was held towards the end of March. So that was a complete breakdown of the WEC, IMSA, and IGTC calendars that have been revealed ahead of the 2026 seasons. Which calendar do you like the most? And is there any changes that you think make a noticeable difference to the calendars? Well, be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments below.